Hello! I'm playing with my singing bowl. Isn't that amazing? Okay. I had to. Hi, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm just playing with my, I had to. You guys, I'm having such a day. Okay, first of all, this is my weekly deck reviews, just so you know where we're headed eventually. The day was fine. There was nothing bad about my day, but it's Friday. I feel like mentally, emotionally, I just feel really exhausted for no reason whatsoever. And then I was thinking about doing my review of the decks I've been working with this week, and I was like, I don't even know what to say about this one deck, so we're just gonna see what comes out of me when the time comes, because I've had an interesting experience with one of the decks I was working with this week. But before I get into that, let me just give you the lay of the land if you're new here. So each Sunday I post these videos. I usually film them on Friday night or Saturday, and I talk about the decks I have been working with since Saturday the previous week. I usually work with one tarot and one oracle deck primarily, except when I am called to use a different deck for a particular reading for a client. Regular sort of general readings with clients I will usually pull into my deck of the week, but if it's a specific type of reading, then I will sometimes reach for decks meant for that reading or meant for that client, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, I pretty much work with the same one. And it's been asked of me a couple of times actually, so this is a great time to talk about this. It's been asked of me a couple of times, what do I mean when I say I've been working with these decks for a week? Here's what I mean. I do daily draws for myself, so tarot and oracle draws. I occasionally just check in with the tarot or with oracle if I have a specific question related to my own life. Sometimes I will do readings for friends and family, but sometimes I'll play a game called Queens of Fate, which is a tarot solitaire game, which I will link up in the cards so that you can see my playthrough, because that's a fun activity. Sometimes I do other activities with my deck of the week. Sometimes I modify decks when I'm working with them that week, so I might trim them or edge them. Sometimes I do deck interviews if it's a new deck to me. There's a whole bunch of different things that I might pull into when I am working with a deck, but I try to work with every single deck in my collection throughout the year, so I like to rotate them, so everything gets a little bit of play. And then there are decks that I will reserve for specific readings or pull into for specific purposes. But in general, I like most of my decks to be all-arounders, like ones that I can reach for just about any purpose. So there are some specific sort of things, and then most of my things are general purpose. With that said, so I'm just going to get right into this because I don't even know where to start. And it's not that I'm prepared to roast this deck. It's not quite that way. It's a little bit more complicated, but the tarot deck that I have been working with this week, as most of you know, is the Beautiful Creatures Tarot. This is the second edition. The author of this deck is J.R. Rivera, and the artwork is by Jasmine Beckett Griffith. This is a shipper publication from their Red Feather division. This deck came in a really nice sturdy box, and it was one of the ones that's kind of long, so the box sits on top and then the deck is split in two underneath, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest, but it is nice that it comes in a quite sturdy box, so I'll take it. Now here's the thing. I don't even know where to start. Okay, I'm just going to start. I love Jasmine Beckett Griffith's artwork, and I have looked over the past year and a half at several of her oracle decks that she's partnered with. A lot of those are with Lucy Cavendish as the author. And then I actually originally thought that the Beautiful Creatures Tarot was also partnered with Lucy Cavendish. I don't know a lot about J.R. Rivera, to be fair. But I really thought that if I was going to resonate with a Jasmine Beckett Griffith deck, it was going to be a tarot. Yes, Shayla has just pushed her way into the room. She's like, excuse me, you're not allowed to shut the door. What were you thinking? And I didn't even all the way shut it, but she's like, scratch, scratch. Anyway. So, where was I? Oh, yes. The second edition of this deck, I watched several walkthroughs before I picked this up, and I was like, yeah, I think I like it. I think I get it. It has keywords on the cards, at least in the second edition. The first edition does not. I was not sure how I was going to feel about having just figures on every single image, which there are. So I kind of went into this with mixed feelings. I did purchase it secondhand for about half price. So I paid about $20 Canadian, and this deck goes for about $38 Canadian on Amazon right now. So roughly half price, and I bundled that in with some other goodies. So it was actually a pretty good deal, but I have to say a few things. The first edition was glossy. I never got my hands on that one. The second edition is matte, but it's this kind of, like, it's a weird matte. Like, it's kind of scratchy, if that makes sense. It's not that sort of buttery smooth matte. Like, the cards, when they rub against each other, they make a sound. It feels like a unfinished matte, almost as if, and I have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm not a printer, but other decks that I've had, they have, do you hear that? Other decks have that sort of smooth, I feel like there's something on my face. Nope, just a shadow or a dimple or a wrinkle, or I'm getting old, what can I say? Anyway, I'm so all over the place. I'm so sorry. If you don't already have a beverage, you might want one, because I don't know how long I'm going to talk. I probably said that already. Anyways, scratchy matte, not that buttery smooth sort of silky matte, so I think there's a finish that these are kind of lacking. But anyway, those are the backings. I was partly enamored with the stunning purple gilding. Now, when I hold it just right in the light, it still looks stunning. It's got this almost magenta shift to it. It's really, really pretty. Well, hello, Shayla. She's chosen a spot on the bed, and she's going to lay there now. But I have to tell you, a week of just my standard use of this deck, you might be able to see if I tilt it. Yes, there you go. If I tilt it away from the light, look at how much wear and chipping, and just all the corners here have pretty much worn already. The sides are just as bad, if not worse. I gotta get it away from the light. You can kind of see how much wear. Now, these looked almost perfect when like, these were used, but they hadn't even really, they were still in order when I bought them from the seller who was selling them on Facebook. That side's not so bad. Now, I'm not brutal on my decks. I do riffle, whatever. I shuffle them that way. I hand over hand as well. But this gilding already looks like I've had the deck for like over a year, if you ask me. It did not hold up well. And unfortunately, because it's such a bright, shiny color, that wear, at least in normal lighting, to me is really obvious, which was kind of disappointing because aesthetically that was one of the things I really loved about this deck. And I know that sounds so silly, but I loved that purple. It was so unique and pretty. And I don't normally mind gilding that wears, but when you see white shining through this bright purple, it's really hard to ignore. And again, that side is probably where you can see it the most. That's a lot of wear for five work days of use and a couple weekend days of use. Like, that's not a lot. And I use reading cloths, and I don't think I'm particularly harsh on my decks. Like, I'm normal. Like, I'm normal use. I'm not extra gentle and careful, but I'm also not brutal with my decks. So that was disappointing. The aesthetic feeling of the deck, and I know I'm talking just aesthetics and stuff right now, but that's important to me because tarot is a very physical and tactile experience. But yeah, I don't love this. I like that it's matte, but this type of matte feels, it just leaves something to be desired. Let's get into the actual cards. So I'll show you some images. They are all classic Jasmine Beck Griffith art. Now, throughout the week this week, I watched a lot of other people's walkthroughs and flip-throughs of this deck. Now, here's one that confused me. The decadence for the tower. This image for the tower is challenging to me because I don't think it shows a tower experience at all, even a little bit. And the decadence confuses me. Now, abruption, when I looked it up, makes sense because abruption is like a sudden, abrupt event, something you're not expecting. That makes sense. But it doesn't jive with the artwork for me. And I feel like in hindsight, I kind of should have known better. And I did waffle a lot about this deck, and I did tell myself I wouldn't buy it at full price, but even at like half price, I'm kind of disappointed. That said, this deck does have a personality, let me tell you. I did do a deck interview spread with this deck that was super cheeky and sassy. I posted the results of that on my Instagram. But this deck, for lack of a better word, literally feels like a brat. Like, it feels like a brat. Like, not even like a helpful brat sometimes. It's just like, and I know I'm doing that thing where I'm sort of, what do you call it when you like humanize I'm humanizing the deck. But this deck has that bratty personality. I feel like it just doesn't, it's like that cat that like doesn't want you to pet it except on its own terms. Like, it's like that. That's what this deck makes me feel like. And so the imagery isn't doing it for me as much as I wanted it to. I thought I was going to be fine with all girls throughout the whole deck, but I missed boys in this deck. And I mean, guys, you know, like, I like girls, but I really missed boys. I missed that masculine energy, which even in decks that are a little bit light on guys, I feel like still gets across that masculine energy. Now, one thing about this deck that I thought immediately was really cool is that the knights, pages, and queens each... No, let me try that again. The knights, queens, and kings each are symbolic of or each represent an astrological sign. So the Queen of Cups for Cancer. The Knight of Pentacles is Virgo. There's a few others in here. Obviously, there's all of the astrological signs. The Queen of Swords is Libra. Now this I thought was really cool, and I was like, oh man, how neat would that be to play with? And there are some neat things it suggests in the book, but oh my gosh, you guys, this is one of my deal breakers, and this is a creepy as heck Two of Cups. I showed this deck to my sister when she was in town last weekend, and she was like, what? I didn't get it either. I wanted to, but I didn't. And I still don't. I kind of hate this image as the Two of Cups, and it is one of my favorite cards in the deck, typically. So that's a bummer. Now, when I did my deck interview, what came out was that basically this deck is not good for single card pulls, for generic pulls, that it does better when you're asking the deck a specific question. I did find that to be true when I had spread positions to combine with the meanings of the cards. This deck did read fine. And I did have kind of a funny experience that I shared in the Supportive Tarot Facebook group where I pulled a Ace of Cups. Let's see if I can find it. I pulled the Ace of Cups for a daily draw, and it's a girl. Let's see if I can find it. See, I hate that sound. Do you guys even hear that? Like, it's a very scratchy kind of matte finish. I don't know. And it could just be that I got cranky with this deck throughout the week, and that's not entirely untrue. I did find myself losing patience, and in fact, when I did my deck interview spread and the position was like, what do you need from me? It was like, patience. And I'm like, I don't have patience for you. So that was a problem. Let's see. Why am I never prepared? I told myself that I was going to actually separate the cords. Oh, here we go. So this was my daily draw on Wednesday night. Ace of Cups. It's this girl holding this gigantic heart with a little dragon. Super cute, right? Now, Wednesday night, and I put this, it's a very short video, like 1.5 minutes long, 2 minutes long, up on my Peggy and Lisa vlogs, or Lisa and Peggy vlogs, other goofy channel. It's linked down below. I put the video of it up there, but Peggy did this like really goofy, just because kind of romantic thing, and got me this epically huge heart, Valentine's heart of chocolates on the same day that I drew this card, and I was like, hey, literal, all right. So I don't think this is a deck that doesn't read well. I think it's just not a deck that I'm going to find myself being particularly excited to reach for. As much as I love having a deck full of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's art, there's just a lot of things about it that don't jive. I love the emotion on the pages' faces, and some of these cards, the imagery works really well. But I also kind of ruined it for myself a little bit, and I'll tell you why. As I was watching walkthroughs and things like that, I stumbled on some interviews with the author of this deck, J.R. Rivera. Now, he was really excited about this deck, and I think he had a lot of passion for working with Jasmine Beckett Griffith. But one of the things he mentioned in one of his interviews that unfortunately for me turns into a kind of a deal breaker is that when he was working with her, he was able to select from basically a book of her completed work, and any paintings that weren't already spoken for other decks he could choose for the tarot. And I have no doubt that he put a great deal of thought and effort into choosing art that showed what he wanted that particular tarot card to show. But I have historically found in my own experience that most of the time, not every time, but most of the time, when art is already created and then applied to the tarot or to an oracle deck, oracle decks, there's sometimes more flexibility, but not always. I find that when it's applied after the fact to tarot meanings, where it's kind of, the art is not forced, but kind of nudged into the meaning of the tarot, versus being created with that tarot meaning in mind, I just find that a lot of times the message doesn't come through as clearly, and I don't connect with it as well. And that is definitely the case with this deck. Now let's talk about the guidebook. So in the beginning, I will tell you that the first thing that I was actually really kind of excited about is there are a gazillion spreads in this book. There are, let's see, so the spreads start on page 13, and it is a full color guidebook, which is actually really nice if you like Jasmine Beckett's art. That's really kind of cool. Love that. But the spreads go all the way through from page 13 through page 27. And there are spreads with astrological houses, past life, mending a broken heart. There are short spreads, long spreads. I loved how many spreads there were, and I did play with a couple of those, but to nothing really mind-blowing came out of those. Annoyingly, I feel like I'm only I kind of am roasting this deck, but I don't mean to be. It's not a bad deck, and it's won awards and stuff. Like, I know there's lots of people that love it. Please don't be mad at me because I don't like your deck. If this is like your favorite, then that's awesome. It didn't connect with me, so I'm trying to be honest about my feelings. But when I got to the way the guidebook is organized, let's talk about that briefly. So it's normal for most of it. See, I'm sounding mean now. I need to be good. The courts or the majors are together, the minors are together, except the courts are separate. And I was really confused about the court cards being separate for like a while. There's always these nice introductory pages. Like, the layout of the book as far as artistically is beautiful. But I did not understand the way the courts were organized at all. Let me explain. The first court card you get in the court card section is the Queen of Wands. The second one is the King of Pentacles. And I was like, how do we go from Queen of Wands to King of Pentacles? And so I went back and I was like, okay, wait. So the Queen of Wands is a fire. So maybe it's all fire. And then I was like, wait, no, the King of Pentacles is earth. So it's not elemental. And then I was like, okay, Queen of Wands is Aries. King of Pentacles is Taurus. And then we go to Gemini in the Knight of Swords. And it was my sister actually that said, are those in like the astrological order? And sure enough, if you look at like an astrological chart or wheel, they do go in order that way. But unless you're already really familiar with astrology, even if you are, that's a confusing way to order the courts. So you get the knights, the queens, and the kings in order of their astrological signs. Not helpful, especially since you have to dig into the actual meat of the description before you figure out what the astrological sign is, sorry, in the knights, queens, and kings. And then after you're through the knights, queens, and kings, then you get Page of Wands, Page of Pentacles, Page of Swords, and Page of Cups. And then there are 2 bonus cards which are in the end here. Now, if I just wanted to flip to what the King of Cups is, that's a really annoying way to have this book laid out. And I'm sorry, but that was really frustrating to me. I did, like I said, I loved that the court cards had the astrological signs. I thought that was a really cool mechanic, and I think there's ways you could definitely play with that as a reader. But, yeah. The actual descriptions of the cards I also found not fully in line with what I normally see the card meanings as, and I struggled a bit. In fact, in each one, there's like a little piece here at the top that's like as if this character is speaking to you. That was, I found, really good for most of the cards. Then there's like more of an artistic description, and this describes what you're seeing in the card and relates it to the tarot meaning, and this I thought was pretty good. And then we would get down here to upright and reversed meanings, and sometimes these went a little bit in a different direction than I was expecting. And so I will admit that I'm not as fond of the writing in this book as I am in some other tarot guidebooks, but I also have some pretty clear preferences for guidebook descriptions and how they go, and this one just didn't quite check the boxes for me. So this is my 20-minute way of saying that I wasn't as happy with this one as I wanted to be. And I'm a little bit regretful that I purchased it, mostly because it was one of those decks that I was like fascinated by. And I did pick such a beautiful bag to go with it. Like, isn't that perfect for this deck? There's the backs. And there's the bag. Like, it's perfect. So I don't know. I have a feeling that I'm going to be rehoming this one sooner than later. It just didn't do it for me. And I think the fact that the thing that I was so excited about, which is the purple gilding, like wore so easily and quickly was a huge disappointment. I know that sounds so silly, but ultimately it was the readability that got to me. I just felt very limited by this deck. I felt like it wasn't behaving. I literally felt like it was rebellious, which I could see where that could be really cool. And if you're in a place where this artwork really speaks to you, this could be a very potent and powerful deck. It just wasn't for me. So yeah. But now the good news. This is why I was playing with my singing bowl. Hold on. Let me just clear that. I'm actually really excited because I've had this singing bowl for like, I don't know, 15 years. But I've never had one of these suede covered mallets. And it makes it sing in a totally different way. Okay. Welcome to my probably squirreliest video ever. Okay, let's move on. The Oracle deck. This is all good news now. The Oracle deck I was working with this week is the Animalkin Oracle. I don't know if I had picked the bags when I showed these decks last weekend, but this is the bag I picked. Isn't that so pretty? It's all swirly. This is Animalkin Oracle by Sarah Wilder. Now, this deck, from what research I have done, was originally a Kickstarter and an independent deck, and it did look a little bit different, and the box and the decks were the borders and things on the cards, the cardstock, those things would have been slightly different in that independent version. This is now a Hay House publication, and I do believe that the Hay House publication of this deck is really new. I want to say late 2018, early 2019, and it's only February, so I think this one is pretty new. In fact, the guidebook might tell me, and I will check that. But you guys, okay, so for starters, nice, sturdy, beautiful Hay House box that is deck-sized, my favorite kind, and this deck still fits in one of my Peggy bags, which makes me happy. The top doesn't, like, cinch close really tightly over the top, but it does close all the way when I pull the string, so good size, makes me happy. The backings of the cards are absolutely stunning. I did not want to edge this deck yet. I still might. Somebody in last week's video suggested that I might edge this in a like a silver, and I think silver on this deck could actually be really beautiful. So I might do that at some point, but I'm not ready to yet because I just don't want to mess with the fronts. But the backs look like that. And then on the fronts, for every single card, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a unique border on every single card. Now, I am a trimmer, usually, but I love how the borders of these cards actually add to the energy of the card. So you get to really play with color, which I really enjoy. There's also, now this deck is very thoughtfully put together. So for starters, you have an animal artistically depicted on the front of each card, and the colors of the animal and the colors of the border tied together. Then you have it actually says what the animal is in a fine font, so this is the manta ray. And beneath that, in a different font, you have the keyword, which in this card is presence. And then at the top, and this is actually kind of important, this part, and I know how to focus my camera now. Let's see if I can do it. Come on. There we go. Well, it works when I'm face down. Anyways, there is a mandala there, and there's a number in the very center of the mandala. Now, two things. The mandala itself tells us what suit it is. So this one has a wavy-shaped mandala, which is the water suit. And then the number tells us how to find it in the guidebook. So checks off every box. It's got suits, so we have earth, air, fire, water, and spirit in equal amounts in this deck. And we have numbers to find the deck, the description in the guidebook really, really easily. So I really love that. The animals are fantastic. The keywords are paired beautifully, like gratitude for buffalo, motivation for horse. Let's see what else we got. Wisdom for sloth. Love that. The selection of animals here is so fantastic. Water dragon is balance. Lion, this was one of my daily draws or in one of my spreads, for confidence. And definitely you feel the like solar plexus chakra with the color choices here too, right? Duck is knowing. Totally getting third eye vibes. Phoenix, renewal. More solar plexus here. So yeah, there's just, you can definitely pull a bunch of different things in. Starfish is sensitivity. Yeah, eagle is strength. Apparently I want to keep showing you cards. These do have that buttery, smooth, matte, like they don't have that scratchy sound when you rub them together. They shuffle beautifully. The cardstock is like sturdy, but has some flex, so it's not gonna like crease or bend on you. I'm able to rifle these beautifully. I get a really good mix. I'll just show you. Really nice mix when I rifle. Easy to bridge. Like they're just, I really love these. Hummingbird Joy. And the color is just, there's so much color to play with. The images are really, really lovely. I think these are watercolor. These have got to be watercolor. Crab for Trust. Oh, I got this alpaca, I think, this week. These read beautifully. The keywords, sorry, I'm just kind of showing you images. This video is going to be 1,000,000 hours long. I'm sorry. The point is, I loved working with this deck. The keywords were expansive. I got tons of good information out of them. I loved pulling them. I loved flipping through them. They made me happy to look at. They sparked joy, if you were a Marie Kondo fan. So I really, 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 really enjoyed this deck, and no complaints. Let's talk about the guidebook. So the guidebook is also really, really well organized. You start out with your table of contents, and this does say copyright 2018, so it must have, Hay House must have printed this in 2018. And then you have, they're numbered, but also you have your earth elements grouped together, your water elements grouped together, fire and air, and spirit. There's an intro. There's the origin of the cards. There's a discussion here on totem versus messenger kin, and this is really interesting information here. Talks about figuring out what your primary or power animal is, your animal kin messengers or spirits, and then your shadow animals. So there's some really interesting stuff to dig into there, which was really useful for me. It tells you how to identify the different mandalas for the different suits. So when you're looking through the cards, you know what suit you've pulled, and it is actually pretty smart. So like, for example, in spirit, you have little diamonds that show up in the mandala. In air, you have the little air alchemical symbol that shows up. In fire, you have these like little flamies that are in there. In water, there's like these wavy shapes. And in earth, you have like crystals, like crystal point shapes that show up in the mandala. So it's actually really intuitive and smart. There is some spreads in here. So there is a 1 card, a truth unfolding spread, which I did, an elements of life spread, and the animal kin pyramid spread. Now I did do this spread. I put it on my Instagram, and I really loved this. So this is the one that talks about your power animal, your spirit animal, and your shadow animal. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And when you get into the card descriptions, you do get a small black and white image of the card, and then a kin essence, which is kind of like your punchy message, that little snapshot. And then you get information about the animal, so you understand where the correlation is with the meaning. And then near the end, it kind of talks about the lesson of the animal, or what that animal has to teach you. Really well put together. This and my Animantras both have a very similar format for how they teach you about the animal, and then they dive into the message, and this is very similar. The guidebook feels really sturdily bound. I was pretty hard on it this week. Like, I read a bunch, I flipped through it, I didn't have to be delicate with it, and like the binding is holding up well, like all good quality stuff. Love, love, love. Could not recommend this deck more highly, and I love that Hay House is coming out with some matte decks now. This deck, being matte, it just, oh, this is lovely. And I am so, so, so glad that I waited for this, because I was really ready for an animal oracle, and Colette Baron Reed's Spirit Animal Oracle was really catching my attention, but every time I flipped through it, it wasn't quite there for me. And as soon as I saw this one, I just knew this was going to be the one. So I am really, really excited, and I will have another video going up sometime this month, I can't remember when, that compares this with my other animal decks and talks about why I love this, and I have a full flip through of all of the cards that will be in that video. So watch for that to come out if this one has caught your attention, because it is fantastic. That's enough of that. So I'm already at almost 30 minutes. I'm sorry. I told you I was going to be all over the place. This is what happens when I'm tired. The reading cloth that I have been working with this month is this week, my new owly one. Peggy made me, so it's this on the front, and it's actually got like a design even in the background, like a swirly or kind of patterned design you can see there. And then it's this really pretty like wine colored red, deep red, velvety material on the back. I love this cloth, and I really enjoyed on my Instagram, you'll see, lining up the cards. Sorry, I need a third hand so that one card was kind of in this wing and one card was kind of in this wing, and then when I took the picture, it looked like the owl was kind of holding the cards and looking down at them. So cute! So I'm really pleased with that. I think Peggy currently has 2 more of these with a different backing, like a cotton backing, on her Etsy shop right now, I think. Don't quote me on that, but it might be in there. Now that we're 30 minutes in, let's talk about what I'm going to use this coming week. So I am going to be working with the Crystal Visions Tarot. Now, along with the Beautiful Creatures Tarot. Sorry, my family's talking. Hold on one sec. Nope, they're just going to keep talking. It's fine. Everything's fine. So I got this in a bundle with my Beautiful Creatures Tarot that I just finished kind of roasting, and a couple of other decks. So I'm really excited. My sister actually was drawn to this one and picked it up. I've seen it a bunch of times, but had never really taken the plunge. Now this is a deck that I was pretty sure I would want to trim, so that's what the cards look like originally. And the person who was selling this had already trimmed it. So it is trimmed, however, it is not yet corner rounded. So I've already put these back in order. I love the colors of this deck. It's got a real fantasy vibe, and she's already edged it. Now the trick is I'm going to want to round the corners, and then I'm going to want to try to edge the corners to blend in with the backs, or just re-edge these. So that is a project that I'm probably going to do right away. I love the backings, especially even trimmed, and she did a beautiful job with the edging. Like, they're very even feeling. But yeah, these have a really pretty kind of fantasy look to them. So I'm just looking at them and not showing you how bad. I'm actually really excited to work with these, and I feel like there's some really cool background changes. I think my sister Jennifer might have pointed that out to me, that the background colors change with the suits. So like the background of the cup suit is this really pretty sunrise color. You get almost like a sunsetty color with the wands. And then this kind of bluish shade with the swords, and this like yellowier background with the pentacles. So, and there is one extra card called the Unknown card in the suit as well. The little white book with this deck actually doesn't look insubstantial, and this is a US Games, so we will see. We will see. So I'm pretty excited to be working with that this upcoming week. And the Oracle deck that I'm going to be working... Oh, this is the bag I picked for it so far. What do you guys think? It's kind of like a purple gold. I like it. And the Oracle deck I'm going to be working with this week, which is currently in a super bright tie-dye rainbow bag, is the Magical Times Empowerment cards by Jody Bergsma. I did scoop this deck up recently when my sister was in town. Hello. I'm in a new outfit, and whatever. I did this thing because I was filming and my camera decided to split the clip, and then I accidentally deleted the second clip. So I missed the end of my video. So I was middle of talking about Jody Bergsma's Magical Times Oracle cards. This is a deck I'm super excited to work with this week. I was mentioning I picked it up last week, and when my sister was in town, this was the only deck I bought while she was in town, which is a record, because normally I buy multiple decks when my sister comes to town, which I really need to work on that because I have a lot already. But anyway, love the little flip top hard box it's in, and it does come with a little white pamphlet-y book, which I don't think I will need much of. It's pretty thin, but the cards themselves have a keyword, have a beautiful piece of artwork in the center, and then a message along the bottom. So I think this is going to be a breeze to read with. I really like Jody Bergsma's art. And I think the fantasy vibe of this is going to just look fantastic and play really nicely with the Crystal Visions Tarot. I will let you know how those two worked together next week, but I'm really stoked to be working with these. I think they're really beautiful. I love all the different colors in the backgrounds of the cards, which is something I really love color. It aesthetically I love lots of color, so I'm excited about that. And these are the backings. So I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this deck. And also, Peggy made me a new reading cloth. And I don't think I showed it in the first part of this video, but if I did, you're seeing it twice, and I'm sorry, but I'm really excited. And I think it's going to go good with both decks. So it is this really, really, really stunning dragonfly fabric. And then on the back is this purple fabric, and both sides, if I can get it in the light just right, have this metallic glint. Especially the wings on the dragonfly, you can see all that gold metal. Look at that! Oh my god! I love it so much. So I think this is going to go really beautifully behind both of those decks. So I'm going to be using this for my daily draws, for my Instagram photos and stuff like that. I also think she did, oh yeah, she did. She did like another one of her fancy stitches along the edges. So she does a lot of these really cool decorative stitches. It's just these like little details that make her cloths feel so special. And I know I sound like a total shill, and I am because she's my wifey, but I really do legitimately love what she does. So this was one that she's had the fabric for a while. We spotted it together, and I've just been dying for my cloth ever since. So I'm pleased to be working with that. And the bag, in case I didn't show yet, is like this is the bag I'm using for this deck. This bag is not as glowy as the camera always makes it look, but it is really bright and fun, and I just thought that'd be fun with all the colors that are in this one. So that is what I'm going to be working with this week. I will let you know how everything worked out next week when I see you again for next week's weekly deck reviews, and until then, have a great rest of your day. Bye!